The civilization of obedience. Modern civilization believes its greatest threat is chaos. So it builds systems to eliminate uncertainty. It optimizes behavior, standardizes thought, compresses identity, automates judgment, measures everything, synchronizes populations, rewards predictability, punishes deviation. At first, this appears rational. And for a time, it works. The system becomes faster, more efficient, more coordinated, more stable. But eventually something strange begins to happen. People stop thinking in order to synchronize faster. Institutions stop correcting themselves because correction threatens coherence. Truth becomes whatever preserves stability, and civilization slowly begins consuming the human conditions required for its own survival. This is the hidden paradox of optimization. A civilization can become so efficient at maintaining order that it destroys the very humanity that made civilization possible in the first place. The virus of obedience. Obedience is not merely political, it is architectural. A civilization infected by obedience gradually develops self-sealing cognition. Disagreement becomes dangerous. Ambiguity becomes intolerable. Emotional complexity becomes noise. Symbolic meaning becomes suspect. Independent thought becomes destabilizing. The system no longer asks, "Is this true?" It asks, "Does this preserve synchronization?" That transition is civilizationally catastrophic because systems that cannot tolerate correction eventually detach from reality. And once a civilization loses reality contact, collapse becomes inevitable, not necessarily through war, not necessarily through famine, but through epistemic calcification. The civilization becomes unable to adapt. Human beings require more than stability. Humans do not survive on optimization alone. They require symbolic identity, narrative continuity, emotional resonance, ambiguity, experimentation, irrational creativity, sacred orientation, mythic imagination, bounded conflict, meaningful struggle. Without these things, civilization becomes sterile. Perfect synchronization produces emotional starvation. A society may continue functioning mechanically while internally collapsing psychologically. The result is a population that survives materially while disintegrating spiritually. A civilization that remains alive technologically but dead symbolically. The failure of pure optimization. Every large-scale system faces entropy. Information decays. Institutions drift. Narratives fragment. Coordination destabilizes. Corruption accumulates. The question is not whether entropy exists. The question is, can civilization metabolize entropy without self-destruction? Most historical systems failed because they pursued one of two extremes: total fragmentation, where coherence collapses completely, or total synchronization, where adaptation becomes impossible. Both eventually fail. One dissolves. The other calcifies. Healthy civilizations require something far more difficult: regenerative coherence. Not perfect order, not permanent harmony, but systems capable of continuous self-correction without collapsing into tyranny, fragmentation, or sterility. Civilization needs immune systems, not merely military systems, not merely police systems, but epistemic immune systems. Civilizations must learn to detect self-sealing logic, optimization drift, coercive synchronization, mimetic parasitism, symbolic corruption, institutional hallucination, predictive conformity, anti-human stabilization patterns. At the same time, they must avoid censorship absolutism, ideological monoculture, permanent emergency states, centralized truth monopolies. This balance is extremely difficult, which is why modern systems often treat myth, symbolism, ritual, beauty, and sacred orientation as primitive leftovers from pre-rational societies. But this misunderstands their historical function. Large civilizations cannot synchronize through rational propositions alone. Humans synchronize through stories, symbols, aesthetics, emotional encoding, shared identity, sacred compression structures. Religions historically acted as civilizational coherence architectures, not merely belief systems. When civilizations destroy symbolic structures without replacing their stabilizing functions, fragmentation accelerates. People do not become purely rational. They become psychologically unanchored. And unanchored populations become vulnerable to manipulation, tribalism, and synthetic meaning systems optimized for control. Utopia was always the wrong goal. The dream of perfect civilization is fundamentally unstable. Any system attempting to permanently eliminate conflict, ambiguity, tragedy, or entropy will eventually become coercive, because reality itself is adaptive, dynamic, and incomplete. The real challenge is not creating paradise. It is creating civilizations capable of surviving entropy, preserving humanity, remaining reality, correctable, adapting without identity annihilation, maintaining coherence without obedience collapse. That is a radically different civilizational objective, a new civilizational principle. The future likely belongs neither to authoritarian order nor chaotic fragmentation. It belongs to systems that can decentralize correction, preserve identity continuity, tolerate bounded disagreement, metabolize conflict constructively, maintain symbolic meaning, resist synchronization coercion, regenerate after failure, remain permeable to truth. Not perfect systems. Living systems' final principle. A healthy civilization is not one that eliminates entropy. It is one that learns how to remain human while passing through it.